Okay, so as next section in SYNERGIZE, we'll be talking about audit management. So audits are actually here. And sometimes, as we discuss with some of our panelists, it may be an internal audit, it may be an external audit, and that is part of our life as for business professionals. So having said that, how can we manage them in this digital age? So as I mentioned earlier, SYNERGIZE as a platform that we share knowledge about digital transformation, about automation and technology, also about leadership in a way. So we designed this event not only to talk about Bimser and Bimser products, we also like to invite experts so that we can all learn certain fundamentals of certain practices. So having said that, we'll be talking about audit management, and we have another expert from DEKRA Audits North America. So we have Dr. Onus from DEKRA. He's with us, and we'll be learning fundamentals of audit management. We'll also learn about how we should manage audits, and also we have also a chance to show you QDMS during this session. And we'll also show you how you can actually manage audits digitally as well. So we'll learn the fundamentals, and we'll also show you in a digital environment how you can manage audits with the help of QDMS software of Bimser. Dr. Onus, are you available? You ready?
Kevin, good afternoon. Nice to be with you.
Perfect. Yes, same here. Good to be with you. Good to have you. Thank you very much for joining. If you are ready, I can stop sharing my screen so you can take over the screen. Okay, we can see it. Great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Doctor.
And how's the audio? You can hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear. Very good. Thank you.
Perfect. First of all, Bimser team, thank you very much for inviting DEKRA to your SYNERGIZE 2022 conference. We're very honored to participate in this meeting. And it's a very relevant topic. Obviously, we're all going through major changes in all types of industries. And what I wanted to share with you guys is coming from the audit perspective. We are a certification body conducting accredited audits to different international standards around the world. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes to, first of all, introduce you guys to DEKRA for some of you who may not be familiar with our organization. And for discussing remote auditing, I want to just make a distinction between remote auditing versus virtual auditing, ICT technology, and some of the mandatory documents that we use as accredited certification bodies for conducting audits in the field. As organizations get ready for audits, or organizations that conduct audits within the internal audit teams, or getting ready for external audits, what are some of the things that you should start thinking about regarding auditor qualifications, how to prepare for an audit, how to meet audit objectives, and an interesting topic that keeps surfacing in our world is, of course, continual monitoring. Historically, ISO audits, these are snapshots in time that happen periodically, typically on an annual basis. But as we start moving into new ways of auditing organizations and new ways of operating, more and more continual monitoring is something that we're all considering and should start looking into. And of course, I'll wrap it up with some benefits to clients, benefits to certification bodies and accreditation bodies with regards to what remote auditing can offer for you guys. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions at the end of the presentation for our meeting today. So a little bit about DEKRA. We've been around the block for a little bit. We're approaching our 100-year anniversary. It's a very European-centric organization that operates globally. I have the honor of working with about 45,000 colleagues around the world, where we provide professional services. We're out in the field, we're conducting audits, inspections, we operate test labs, and we are the eyes and ears for our customers so that they can go to the field, go to their customers, go to the market to demonstrate that they have met certain international standards, specs, and have a validation that they're doing the right things so that they can operate in certain conditions. Just a quick overview of where we operate. As you can imagine, 45,000 employees. We're pretty much where all industrial organizations operate. And my responsibilities are in the Americas region, primarily in North America, where we have been active for past 25 years for conducting accredited certification business. We are divided into 8 service divisions, and primarily today we're just going to be talking about our audit activities. In North America, we are represented by 800 employees, and it's relatively a big chunk of our business in North America. So it's not the only thing that we do, but we are very active in conducting third-party audits, which is your ISO certification. We're also very active in conducting second-party audits, just to give you a perspective of who we are. As you can imagine, as I mentioned, we are an accredited certification body. Our accreditation body is ANAB, the one that's recognized in North America. However, globally, we hold over 200 accreditations. So we have a lot of experience working with different regions of the world and different accreditation bodies that have unique requirements for businesses to be able to demonstrate that they are complying with certain rules. Traditionally, most of you are probably familiar with ISO 9001. We are certainly capable of providing services to all of the known ISO standards around the world. In addition to providing auditing services, we do do a lot of work in training. And most of our online courses, with everything that has happened within the last 2 years, we pivoted to digital online training versus face-to-face training. But slowly but surely, we're getting back into the classroom where we're able to meet with the students and also conduct face-to-face trainings where we get into the nuts and bolts of lead auditor training, internal auditor training, and a variety of different topics on management systems. So remote auditing is nothing new for us. We've conducted a lot, especially during the COVID period. But prior to the COVID, we worked very closely with our accreditation body to start working on how do we ensure the integrity of remote auditing. So when COVID hit, it was a very easy pivot for us to start leveraging a lot of the experience that we've had, especially working with our accreditation bodies to ensure that when we conduct a remote audit, we can continue the rigor, continue the flexibility of providing the right amount of oversight for an organization that needs to demonstrate that they're meeting the requirements of an international standard. So just to give you guys an idea, for our third-party certification audits, we've conducted over 2,000 audits already. And when we do these audits, we typically come into our customer's environment. So if our customers are using Teams or Zoom, as we're on this webinar, we prefer to utilize their platform to come in and, in a sense, show us around. However, for second-party audits, which we have done already, more than 1,000 audits, we also utilize our own technology, which is very robust, web-based platform, where we have video capabilities, recording capabilities of video, not just video sharing, and also ability to take pictures of objective evidence for the audits that we conduct for, let's say, network of dealerships, suppliers. So it's a variety of different things that we utilize these different technologies to conduct remote audits. I won't get into the details, but when we share these slide decks with you guys, you can have reference points if you're interested to learn more about some of the guidelines that are out there for conducting remote audits. The first one is the ISO 9001 auditing practices. And the link is here for anyone to continue their learning or get ideas about what are some of the guidelines that are accepted internationally. There are also guidelines from the International Accreditation Forum on how to use the technology. Our accreditation body, ANAB, has also provided significant guidance through the pandemic for how certification bodies should behave. So that reference is also included. And then, of course, going back to the fundamentals of auditing, which included remote auditing specifics and methodologies, is also an important reference document that, if anybody's interested, I would highly recommend. So first of all, the term remote and virtual gets thrown out quite often. And the way that, or the easiest way that I explain the differences is, virtual is more of a, organizations that never had a physical presence. Right, in the ICT community, in the information technology community, you'll see this quite often, that organizations may be doing some DevOps in Europe, Eastern Europe, and they have, let's say, establishment in Delaware, but there's no physical office space, perhaps. This is a virtual environment. Everybody's operating out of cloud-based environment. Document sharing is cloud-based. The product that's developed is SaaS type of a environment. So this is more of your virtual environment, and it can absolutely be audited. However, what we're talking about remote audits is organizations that have physical presence. However, when we go to audit, it's not an on-site audit, but we're conducting a remote assessment of physical activities. For conducting remote audits, we are using a variety of different techniques. As I mentioned earlier, it's typically the technology that the customer is accustomed to. And there are various reasons for that. We want to go into an environment that the customer is comfortable in. When we're face-to-face with an auditee, we want to make sure that they can retrieve documents, they can show us documents, they can share videos, and they are comfortable in the environment that they work in, so that they invite us in so we can conduct an audit. Remote audits refer to ICT to gather information, interview the auditee, when face-to-face methods are not possible or desired. I was actually on the phone with our accreditation body just yesterday, and during the initial days of us gaining our, let's say, approval for doing accredited remote auditing, one of the organizations that we audited was actually an organization in Ukraine with a headquarters in San Francisco. And it was quite interesting. Fast forward to now, of course, there are situations where companies want to retain and maintain their certified status, but for a variety of reasons, right? One being COVID, two being escalations of even war. There are situations where auditors just cannot travel, or certification bodies cannot conduct physical audits. So we need to be able to utilize these technologies, these methodologies to continue with the certification activities so that the status of our customers are maintained, and that they can continue to tell their customers that, look, although there are external environmental consequences or situations that are impacting their business, that they're maintaining the quality of their management systems, whether it's management systems for quality topics or environmental issues, sector-specific topics that they're certified to, that they can give the assurance to their customers that, hey, look, if you're wanting to continue doing business with us, we are continuing our certification, and which means that we're able to demonstrate to an unbiased party that our processes and procedures are moving in the direction as intended, so that when they conduct business with those organizations, is that there's an external party validating that things will continue as intended. So I think it's an important way of operating. Some of the things that organizations should consider for a path to successful audit. First, you need to start looking at your risks and opportunities for conducting a remote audit, whether it's conducting a remote audit by your external certification body, or even conducting audits of your suppliers or your own operations. You should have a really good understanding of what the risks and the opportunities are for conducting that audit. There should be a documented inputs and expected outputs for the audit prior to the audit, obviously. So this is where you get into the details of your planning. And then the roles and responsibilities of who's going to be doing what during the audit should be very clear to all of the parties that's going to be participating in the audit. So as most of you can imagine, with what I said earlier, auditor qualification is extremely important. So when you are planning to have your internal resources, or when external resources are coming to, let's say, conduct audit activities, there should be proper training for these auditors to ensure that you're going to meet your audit objectives. And the way that we do that within DECRA is that we provide extensive training to our auditors, not only on the methodologies for how to conduct a remote audit, but also by testing them to ensure that they're capable of using technology. Now, for even us in the early days, we thought most auditors should be competent to conduct a remote audit. But we found out the hard way that some individuals are just not comfortable using the technology. So it was a learning curve for some auditors to be comfortable conducting a remote audit where the auditees may have to maneuver around the shop floor, use different technology. And of course, one of the main things that we wanted to maintain was that we want to keep the auditees comfortable during an audit. And no one likes to be audited, right? Audit is just a process that most people don't look forward to. So when you think about a physical audit, there's some anxiety behind that. And for some, when you're doing a virtual audit, that multiplies. The anxiety or being anxious multiplies greatly. And we wanted to teach our auditors on how to ensure that they keep their auditees comfortable with the methodologies that we're using. So there's a lot of lessons learned. There's a lot of different considerations that we needed to provide to our auditors to ensure that they're making sure that they meet the audit objectives, but also to retain and maintain good customer relationships. Audit planning and preparation. There are some terminologies in here that may be unique to third-party certification, such as program and plan, but an audit program typically is your 3-year plan based on being certified for a 3-year for a particular standard, but it should address potentials for performing, how to perform the remote audit. An audit plan should indicate the processes that you're going to be audited remotely. And what you want to do there is to make sure that there's no surprises, right? So you want to plan ahead of time. You want to let your auditees know exactly what is going to be audited, so there's no confusion. And one of the things that we implemented early on was the risk assessment. And the way that we do the risk assessment is a collaboration between the auditor, client, and DECRA. And the risk assessment includes very basic things such as, does the client or does the environment that you're going to be auditing have the infrastructure necessary? For example, a manufacturing organization, and of course there is a variety of them, right? Very sophisticated to your mom and pop machine shop. Their office environment may be very equipped to withstand a video conference, but when they walk out onto the shop floor, do they have those technologies available? And you don't want to find that out during the audit. You want to make sure that you do proper planning to ensure that, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to use technology ABC, whatever it may be. And once we agree upon that, let's also ensure that, hey, we're going to actually want to see things in motion. Meaning if you're producing widgets, we're going to have to actually go see the processes and procedures for you to make those widgets so that we can validate that the processes are conforming to your standards and conforming to the standards that you're getting certified to. Of course, in addition to the technology, you should pay a lot of attention to confidentiality, security, and data protection. You want to make sure that all the precautions are taken and that you're in agreement with your auditee to protect all confidential information during the audit and post-audit. And I already discussed what are some of the things for qualification of auditors, but this is an extremely, extremely important topic that you want to make sure that the auditor has the competence to meet the audit objectives. During the audit, how do we make sure that we meet the audit objectives? During the audit, we're going to be collecting information about the particular topic, about the scope that we're covering, and of course, we're going to use a sampling method as we do with any audit. So the time that we spend with an organization, we can never cover all of the processes, right? Or all of the activities that an organization does. It's very rare that would ever happen. So when we're conducting a remote audit, it is also done by conducting an appropriate sampling, and that when we pick those sample processes, that we're going to use those as objective evidence to meet the criteria for the standard, or the objective evidence will be used against a nonconformity that will be based to an organization's standards or a requirement from the standard itself. And then how do we, of course, what kind of methods do we use during a remote audit? we're conducting interviews. These should be pre-planned with the auditees. So again, no auditor should be going into a remote audit without having the proper plan in advance with regards to which processes are going to be audited and what type of resources are necessary to conduct those audits. So interviews are a big part. Observation of processes, as I mentioned, one of the key elements for us to ensure that we meet our audit objectives is that we have, if you're a manufacturer, if you're making products, we need to be able to observe the processes that are in play. So in order to do that, we certainly need to use video technology to watch the performance of the activities that are happening on the floor, where the processes take place. And last but not least, this is more probably the conference room setting, but we are going to be looking at and reviewing documentation and records to ensure that processes are in place and they're following the requirements of the organization's established processes. And then last but not least, the auditors, with the risk assessment that they're creating, they should be very aware of the risks and opportunities of the information and the communication technologies used, and the risks should be agreed upon with the auditee and should be documented for reference in the future. So here, I think, Kevin, I believe you guys would like to demonstrate how you're doing some of the documentation and record keeping. So I'll hand it back to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Ons. Let me take over the screen for quick, and we can continue. Yes, that's was actually very helpful for us to understand as for audit management as well as remote audit, how it is actually being done in practice. And as part of our offering, we have QDMS, our quality, compliance, audit, and performance management software. We have been developing QDMS for decades, since 1998. So it's a mature system. It also has document management as well as audit management capabilities that companies can actually perform audit remotely as well as on-site as well. So for that, just like you mentioned, we love to show QDMS, and then we can get back to you as to help you conclude your presentation as well. If that's okay, Sam, are you ready to take over the screen, show us QDMS, how it looks as for the audit management?
All right.
Okay, let me stop sharing so you can take over the screen. Thank you. Okay, we can see.
Okay. And thank you for joining. And in the following, I will demonstrate you QDMS and let you know how you can enjoy the benefits of our system and manage your audit activities digitally and remotely. So QDMS is our quality, risk, audit, and compliance management system. And it is a web-based system, meaning after deploying the system on your cloud or on-premise server, you can connect to your own QDMS, your own system by using the web browser, meaning anytime and anywhere. So you don't have to install anything on your local, and instead you can connect to your system by using your web browser like Google Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and you name it. Every user has the unique credentials for logging into the system. Therefore, QDMS is also a permission-based system. So not everyone can see everything. They will see what they're supposed to do based on the permissions that are granted to their account. So based on their role, position, profession, department, and group, users will have different permission setting in the system. And I am now logging in as the admin so that I have the full control of the system. Right after we log into QDMS, we can find all the pending tasks and assignments on this homepage so that you can get a quick connection. For example, there is an audit that I have to perform. or that I have to audit someone else or the auditee, so that I can get a quick connection and start updating the record of this audit activities that we have saved in our system. On the top left, this is the main menu of QDMS, and thanks to the modular structure of QDMS, you can pick and choose the modules that you want to have and deployed on your server based on the challenges that you are facing in your company. And today, we will get into the audit management module, which you can use, you can manage different audit planning. And when we are talking about audit planning, that means the goal that we want to achieve. For example, like we want to perform the internal audit or even external audit. So those can be managed in QDMS. Internal audit means like we are auditing different our employees in different departments, and also we can manage the external audit. For example, we are going to audit our suppliers, our vendors, or subcontractors. So that's our goal as for internal audit in this example. So how we can achieve this goal, meaning like audit every single employees in our company, then we can create different audit items within this planning. And the audit items is like the objective that help us achieve our goals, meaning the internal audit in this example. So we can create different audit items for different departments, like purchasing department, the sales department, and also like packaging department, logistics department, and so forth and so on. And when we are talking about creating or managing the audit item, you are more than welcome to schedule the audit with the date and also the time in our system. In addition, we can also define the subject that we are going to cover in this audit, saying like it is for sales department, and then we can have a specific subject that we are going to cover in this audit schedule. Furthermore, we can invite the auditor and auditee into to this audit. And once we save this audit item, all the auditors and auditees will receive a notification in their own QDMS account for sure, and also in their email inbox. Any document that you want to attach along with your audit schedule, you're more than welcome to do so. And QDMS supports different file formats that you attach and open within the system. So it can be Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, and even video and audio. All those documents that you save for your audit will be recorded and kept in an archive of QDMS. With the permission, you can always retrieve the previous audit that you have scheduled in our system. And in the audit management module, we can also set up the predefined question for this audit. In another word, the auditor doesn't have to prepare or doesn't have to spend like the whole week and like 5 pages of paper for auditing one employee in our company or in this particular department. And instead, we can pick and choose the question as a reference to the auditor. As you know, like paper is not free. So paper itself, the ink, the storage place, those are the costs to our company. So by using QDMS, you will be ready for your audit activities in your company every day. And also it helps you save your time and also the cost for managing your audit activities by using our system. And in this audit management module, you can also find the reporting tool, which is available for actually every single module in QDMS, so that we can run our report or having our graphical report to be generated in QDMS. And every time before we generate our report, we can put together certain criteria or conditions. For example, like we want to see, for example, the department that we have the audit between this particular time frame, like starting from last year, January 1st up till today. And then we can draw our graph, and you may see how many times that you have scheduled the audit for different departments. And you're more than welcome to export your graphical report or any report that you generate in QDMS into Excel or PDF for sharing with any responsible parties or for your own documentation. This comes to the end of my demonstration on a high level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam, for the brief demonstration. Much appreciated. Let me take over the screen so we can continue our session together. Dr. Onus, would you like to continue your presentation? Should we? How would you like to proceed?
Sure. Thank you, Kevin.
Sure. Let me stop sharing my screen so you can take over before we take questions. All right, we can see. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So to wrap things up, I wanted to just touch on flexibility of remote audits and how we react to companies that are operating in the Agile world, right? As we know, most organizations are under the spectrum of, responding to their customer needs. Historically, when processes were set, even for manufacturing organizations, things would stay pretty stagnant for some time. But these days, as we know, customer demands are constantly evolving, and that requires organizations to change quite rapidly. And of course, having the systems that Bimser provides does help organizations to maneuver quickly. But also, you need to maintain your systems to stay current with your certification and certification body. So with the remote auditing, organizations do have the flexibility to conduct their audits on a very flexible schedule. So it should be a partnership. You should be constantly talking to your certification body, to your auditor, to conduct the audits on a more scheduled way. And you should establish your processes for greater flexibility, and have the ability to schedule your audits with greater flexibility. And I think this is going to continue to pick up steam in the future, where organizations that were accustomed to getting audited, let's say once a year, just to maintain their certification, they're going to start looking at their external parties to ensure that, hey, look, in our environment, things are constantly changing. It's no longer the good old days when we establish processes and they stay pretty constant for a long time. We want to have the external eyes and ears on operations. If it's a manufacturing at one site, or multiple locations, we want to make sure that we have an unbiased look at our operations. And guess what? We can pretty much do that on the fly now by working with external parties that can come in and audit almost on demand, right? It's no longer, well, we need to schedule it out 4 to 6 months. We need to make travel arrangements, and all the additional complexities come in. So nowadays, all of that is pretty much out the window. So with that, the benefits of remote audits come into play. And what we have noticed is that, especially for our customers, is that, it's reduced travel time, ability to better prepare for the follow-up on-site audits, and improved value of the audit time. It's, the audit itself becomes much more focused on the things that you need to do. This also provides for less disruption to the customer's operations. There's no need for a lot of preparation. It's pretty much, you're ready to be audited, and there's not too much disruption going into your organization, especially if you have to, for example, fly your quality manager from one site to the other, or have multiple people get together at a facility just to conduct an audit. Now it's pretty much, it's going to be a virtual or a remote audit, and anyone from anywhere in the world can participate at a very cost-effective way. So the last part is, when we're not traveling, it's absolutely a less environmental impact, and it goes hand in hand with most organizations' sustainability objectives, so that they can also say, look, we're reducing our footprint by not traveling to conduct audits that can be done very, very effectively in a remote fashion. All right, Kevin, that concludes my part. I'll turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramos. Let me take over the screen. I think we have some questions. We will allow you to address some. Also, we can address from what I see. So one of the questions, for example, that I received is about audit. So as for remote audit and audit management, does it audit management practices, does it differ based on an industry, or it's a generic practice based on your experience?
So remote auditing pretty much can be done for any of the recognized standards, especially the ones that I mentioned earlier. Right now, when we look into the future, we certainly believe that remote auditing is going to continue. Our accreditation body has been promoting remote auditing from a long time ago, again, prior to COVID. And with COVID, they've doubled down. They also see a lot of benefits for, using the remote methodology for conducting audits. As a matter of fact, when we get audited, which is the case, right? We don't just audit companies, but we also get audited by our accreditation body. They're doing remote assessments. We have not had an on-site visit last 2 years. And even before COVID, we were working with A&AB to conduct remote assessments, and it has worked out very well for us.
Oh, great. Thank you, Doctor. Another question, do you also offer audits for ISO 27001?
Yeah, so ironically, the information security management system was one of those standards prior to COVID. They would not allow for remote auditing 100%. They would allow for a certain portion of the audit to be conducted remote. However, with the implementation of flexibility for conducting remote audits, they have also allowed for 100% remote assessments of information security management systems. I think the only thing that was a concern when the standards were written was the physical security, but I think we've all been able to demonstrate that physical security can also be audited through remote technology such as video.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, that's definitely good to know. Also, as a side note, Bimser is also ISO 27001 certified, so that is a very important factor that we always put into consideration as for the information security, which is critical. Just as a side note for our audience. As for remote auditing, is remote auditing an option for supplier audits as well? You will think?
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing that today, and I think we'll continue to do that into the future. More and more organizations want to have eyes and ears on their supply chains, more now than ever, especially with onshoring of activities to a degree due to geopolitical topics that we're seeing. And I think that's going to continue into the future. And with these type of supply chain shifts from one region to another region, OEMs are sitting back at the table with new suppliers, right? They need to establish new relationships. And of course, they can jump on planes and go visit people, but that comes with an extra cost. And also, it's time away from the business itself. So OEMs rely on third parties like DEKRA to be their eyes and ears, where we have a large footprint of inspectors, auditors that we can deploy on behalf of our customers to tell them exactly what's going on with a particular supplier. And what we do at that point is we work side by side with our customers to understand, what do you want us to investigate? Do you already have established, let's say, checklist or processes that you want us to validate on your behalf? And it's a partnership approach. They educate us on what they typically would do during a supplier audit. We have experts that know how to conduct process audits, so we just engage with our experts to operate on behalf of our customers.
Thank you, Doctor. I have another question that I got that I'd like to share with you. You talk about continual monitoring in Agile environment. Why is this important for certified companies?
I think, organizations that are going through constant change, especially when they're implementing, let's say, digitalization projects, they should consider working with their certification body to be flexible. If we come into your environment, let's say tomorrow, and everything looks good, and the following week you go through a major digitalization upgrade where you're implementing a new system, right? Implementing a new system typically means you're also looking at your processes and procedures and potentially changing your processes and procedures to refresh them, right? It's an opportunity for anyone that's going through that process to say, are we really doing the right things, or should we consider changing processes and procedures? And at that point in time, you really don't want to wait another year for an external party to come in and audit you to see that, things have gone off the rail in a sense quite considerably. You want to make sure that you want to keep things tight, especially after a major digitalization change. You want to get an external eyes and ears. And of course, organizations should and continue to do internal audits, but there's some bias to internal auditing, even if you use resources that are not responsible for the particular processes. So you definitely want to work with external parties to tell you what's going right as well as what's going wrong, so that if there are things that are not in accordance to your plans, that you can correct them as soon as possible.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, it makes sense. Yeah, that was actually very informative, Dr. Onus. Thank you very much. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we end our session with you?
Kevin, again, thank you very much to you and the Bimser crew for inviting us. And I appreciate the time that we spent. And if there's any other questions after the meeting, please let me know.
Absolutely. So we have your email address on the slide, on the screen. So any of our attendees, any of our members from our partner network, our ecosystem, I'm sure they're going to be in touch with you to continue this discussion in case they have any questions moving forward. Great. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your insights and for your time. Very helpful.
Bye-bye.
So as we discussed today at this session, during SYNERGIZE, we position SYNERGIZE as a platform to talk about digital transformation, platform to talk about business practices. That was why Dr. Onus's presentation was really important to learn about fundamentals of audit. During this session, we also talk about QDMS and how you can, or one can use QDMS to perform audits. Audits can be performed on-site as Dr. Onus mentioned, it can be performed remotely due to COVID-19 nowadays. It looks like it's going to be general practice nowadays, or going to be really common nowadays. That's how it looks. And it can be managed on QDMS software as well. QDMS itself, we've been developing it since 1998. It's a very mature system itself. We have more than 1,000 corporate clients of QDMS. So we have a lot of experience in that sense, and we work with experts. We work with quality managers. We work with consultants, and we work with experts like DECRA, for example, as to best practices, and we basically configure our system accordingly. That is our basic flexibility that we offer, and which is critical because there are different compliance requirements, as Dr. mentioned earlier. And each requirement comes with different practices, basically. So in that sense, we need to be flexible. And that is what we put together on QDMS software, as for being flexible, as well as being able to adapt customer requirements, market changes, or compliance requirements per se. Great. So let's end this session, and we're going to continue with our coming session about maintenance management and asset management in this digital age.